high school yet. So, and I know you've had a wonderful journey. You've come a long way with the Lord, and we're excited to hear what God has to say. Amen.
Alrighty, a microphone. So I'm way out of my comfort zone. But by the way, hi, I'm your speaker for today.
Hold it up closer like
Okay, like this. Okay. Usually I am great with the kids, so I'm just going to consider you all to be children. Okay. All right. Because that I can do. But now, it's been a while, long while, and I kept just like, nope, not doing it, not doing it. But it was actually just a couple months ago when it just got to the point where I would be sleeping, and I'm not one to dream and remember it. I don't know if any of you guys are like that, but if I dream, I don't know I dreamt. And I can't tell you what it was. But it was really, really clear in this dreams. It was just things that were coming up that in my head that said, this is what you got to say. And you've been pushing it along and pushing it aside for too long. And it was about a month or so ago, I went to my other church that I actually was born and raised in, and that was Cambridge Wesleyan. Hi, Sarah. Hi. And Pastor Jack was talking about Matthew and how each Bible tells it a little differently. But he was actually really kind of telling us just, really look at the words that it's being said. And so I was like, well, I've read Matthew before, but never really kind of looked at it that way. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go with this. So I was listening to Pastor Jack, and all this time, long before Pastor Jack even said anything, already, it was already in motion. God had already been saying, like, this is what you need to talk about. But he never really mentioned to me where in the Bible yet. And so it was just happened to be that I was there that Sunday, and he said, he preached on Matthew, and it was chapter 26. But God said, when I see this and when I talk about this, tell people that they need to read just the whole chapter, not just part of it. But in my dream, it focused on verses 17 through 30. And so that's what I'm going to talk about, because there are so many people in this world, or whoever's watching, hi everyone, that thinks that something that's been done in their past, that they can't be forgiven. Could be something really horrible, could have been something minor, could have been just whatever. And I have definitely had that in my mind for many years. There's been things that I've done in the past that I didn't think God could forgive me for. So with that, it says in verses 17, he talks about, it's the Last Supper. And he talks about how he's brought his disciples, his 12 disciples, and he said, I want you to come to the table. I want to invite you to my dinner, knowing that this is my last. And in those verses, and I'm going to read those, and I'm using the Passion Translation, but I also used my other book, and and it's just the NIV through the Celebrate Recovery Bible. But if you can just turn to me with that chapter 26, verses 17 through 30, I'm going to read that to you. It says, "On the first day of Passover, the day when any bread made the yeast was removed from every Jewish home, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, 'Where should we prepare the Passover meal for you?' He answered them, 'My heart longs with great desire to eat this Passover meal with you. And go into Jerusalem, and you will encounter a man. To tell him that the teacher says, my appointed time is near. I am coming to the home to eat the Passover meal with my disciples.' And the disciples did as Jesus had instructed them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When evening came, he took his place at the table and dined with 12. While they were eating, Jesus spoke up and said, 'One of you is about to betray me.' Feeling deeply hurt by these words, one after another asked him, 'You don't mean me, do you?' And he answered, 'It is one who has shared meals with me and an intimate friend. All that was prophesied of me will take place. But how miserable it will be for the one who betrays the Son of Man. It will be far better for him if he had never been born.' Then finally Judas, the traitor, spoke up and asked him, 'Teacher, perhaps it is I.' Jesus answered, 'You said it.' So it says, as they ate, Jesus took the bread and blessed it, and broke it and gave it to his disciples. And he said to them, 'This is my body. Eat it. Then take the cup of the wine and give praises to the Father.' He entered into the covenant with them, saying, 'This is my blood. Each of you must drink it in fulfillment in the covenant. For this is the blood that seals the new covenant, and it will be poured out for many for you to complete forgiveness of sins.'" Now, in that part, I've read it before, but I never really read it. It says complete forgiveness. And then it says, "The next time we drink this, I will be with you, and we will drink it together with a new understanding in the kingdom realm of my Father." And then they sang the psalm and left for the Mount of Olives. In some translations, it talks about how each of them called him Lord or God. But for Judas, it was just teacher. But he still had them sitting at the table with him, because it didn't matter to him that one was going to betray him. So I look at it as like, God says, "This is my table. I have prepared it. And it doesn't matter what you've done wrong in your lifetime. You're still invited." And that always was my kicker, because I was always one of those ones that said, well, what I've done, I can't even forgive myself. So I know God can't forgive me. And so God's been just keep saying, he said, there are so many people out there that are like you, that are still thinking the same thing. And you got kids that are under 18, have been in church their whole lives and have done things that are wrong. And they're saying, God can't forgive me. And I look at some of these kids and I think, I was one of those kids. I was one of those young adults, And even in my late even after my young adult's age, I was still one of them. And so I was like, okay, God said, this is it. You've got to understand that if I can have Judas sitting at the table with me, or I can have Peter sitting at the table with me, I can have you sitting at the table with me. And that was where I was like, okay. And I finally broke down and I said, okay. I said, it's been a long time coming. But I said, you got me. And so then that's when he started to say, now that you have started the process of forgiving yourself, you need to let everybody else know that they can do the same. So, no matter what your sin is, doesn't matter. There's no level to sinness. There's only just sin. And God can love you, and he can forgive you. And you can still be invited to the table. So with that being said, I have a song, and I'd like everybody to sing with me. It's been a long time since I've sang by myself. So the song is on YouTube. It's called The Sidewalk Prophets, Come to the Table. So if you guys will stand with me while they get that up here. And I'm getting old, so I need my glasses. Of course, my kids say, Mom, you're not old. I'm like, okay.
We all start on the outside looking in. This is where grace begins. We were hungry, we were thirsty, with nothing left to give. Oh, the shame that we were in. And just when all hope seemed lost, love opened the door for us. He said, come to the table. Come join the sinners who have been redeemed. Take your place beside the Savior. Sit down and be set free. Come to the table. Motley crew of misfits, these lovers and the thieves. There's no one unwelcome here. And that sin and shame that you brought with you, you can leave it at the door. And let mercy draw you near. So come to the table. Come join the sinners who have been redeemed. Take your place beside the Savior. Sit down and be set free. Come to the table. Come to the table. To the doubter, to the hero and the coward, to the prisoner and soldier, to the young and to the older, all who hunger, all who thirst, all the last and all the first, all the paupers and the princes, all who failed but been forgiven, all who dreamed and lost and suffered, all who loved and lost another, all the chained and all the free, all who follow, all who lead, anyone who's been let down, all the lost who have been found, all who've been labeled right or wrong, everyone who hears this song. Come to the table. Come join the sinners. You have been redeemed. Take your place beside the Savior. Sit down and be set free. Oh, sit down and be set free. Come to the table. Come to the table. Sit down and be set free. Come to the table.
Thank you. You guys can sit down. It's just, I get so overwhelmed sometimes, and so the words just kind of get away from me. So thank you for helping sing with me. I am no better to admit that I am one of those many. I've told you that. But I believe that God just kept pushing me and said, this is it. This is what you've got to do. And by doing this today, I realize that I should have done it a long time ago. So I just wanted to, this is all that I had to say. But I just wanted you guys to know, and whoever's watching, that it doesn't matter what you've done. If it's something that you did as a kid, something you did in your marriage, something you did after you were becoming a young adult, you went to jail for it, whatever the case may be, you're still God's child. Because he designed you, he made you, and he probably knew you were going to do these things long before you knew it. But he knows that we have our own will and our own mind, and sometimes our mind plays some tricks, and says, no, you're not getting forgiven. But God proves it in the Bible with those 12 people sitting at the table with him. He knew some of them were going to do something wrong. And before we were even born, he knew that we all were going to do something wrong. We could have took a different path, but I think that sometimes maybe we have to go through the wrong path to get to the right one. So with that, I just tell anybody, and I'll leave it at this, everyone is invited to Jesus' table. Thank you.